Welcome to the Church of Thomas. Supply and demand, 8:13:10. My dad was an economics professor, and he taught me the basic idea behind supply and demand. And the idea behind it is that when you have a great many things and the demand is level, not high, not low, then you can standardize the price at a set level. If for some reason that item becomes more scarce, fewer of them available, but the demand stays the same, then the price will rise. If you have a situation where the supply is steady, but for some reason the demand, more mouths to feed, a disaster that means that something particular is needed more than normal, then the demand will go up and the price will go up then as well. I remember when I was in Ike, the government was pretty much useless, and it was sad because they had lots of resources. They were just in the wrong place. By the time they delivered them, often it was the wrong kind and untimely. It wasn't helpful by the time it got there. There were a couple of people, though, that had the foresight to know, okay, we live on the coast, we lose power on a regular basis when there are hurricanes. I'm going to buy a generator for myself, but I'm also going to buy 4 or 5 other generators while I'm at it. I'll store them away, keep them lubricated, etc. Well, these people were able to sell the generators that they had purchased at retail price for 25 or 30% more than they paid for it to get cash money. Now, you might think this is gouging, but it isn't, because they weren't charging 4 and 5 times what they paid for it. They were charging an extra amount for their foresight, for their innovation, for their initiative. This provided a resource that was readily available, right on time, right on target, and exactly what the person needed. And the people who bought them were very grateful that this resource was around. That is a supply and demand situation. As long as the ethics of the situation are matched with the supply and demand, there's no problem with supply and demand. When we have there was a story in the news about strawberry farmers in California that were being castigated because they were destroying about half their crop. Now, because we are so divorced from farming as a nation, we don't understand that it would have costed more for that farmer to harvest those strawberries and ship them to market than he would have made selling them. That means he would have been paying to bring strawberries to a market. Now, some people were saying, well, it's food and he destroyed food. We need food right now. The only problem is that wouldn't have even been trying to offset his price of harvesting and shipping. That would have been harvesting and shipping, paying for those costs, and then giving it away. Now, one of the reasons why they probably destroyed the crop, besides this, is that because very few people would be interested in paying $5 for a pound of strawberries, even the price would be lower because the economy is not good. So they're in a double whammy, and I support what they did. If those poor people that were complaining who could not have afforded to buy strawberries at any price had walked there and offered to pick them without him having to harvest them or ship them, that would have been a different situation. But they were criticizing him for cutting his losses. There are many situations where we think something is being wasteful and that the resources could have been used someplace else. We criticize people who are in a business. And this farmer was obviously in a business, and he was trying to keep afloat. And in this economy, that is hard enough even when things are going well. But it wasn't going well. Think what you would have done if you had been in charge of these resources and did not have the ability to do what people were telling you should have done. When God talked about supply and demand, let's see here, there was a lesson. Greed is always frowned upon, but the idea of being resourceful, etc., is a good thing. But you also have to think in terms of ethics. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And this is the lesson behind the idea of hoarding. Getting things with, it's a risk whenever you take in more than you can use, on the off chance it'll help you later. It's Reconciler Gospel of Thomas, verse 63. There was a rich man who said, I will use my money to reap and plant. That done, I will fill my warehouse with produce, and that way I will never want for anything. Those were his intentions, but he died that night. The other story is the one about the farmer who hired servants in the morning and paid them a certain amount. And he realized that he wasn't going to get all the harvesting done at noon, so he went and hired some more. And because his need was continuing to be high, he paid them the same amount as the first workers. And at the end of the day, there was still enough going to rot on the vine if he didn't get it harvested, that he went out and got another set of workers to come and help. He paid them the same amount. This is a good side of supply and demand. Even though the workers who were paid the same amount at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, the ones beginning of the day were complaining because they said, hey, we worked all day long. And he says, yes, but you had an opportunity to work all day long. You had an opportunity to walk away when I offered you this fair pay for a day. My need was higher as the day went on. And I realized you were not going to be able to do what I needed done. So I went out and procured some more workers. It is my money to give as a salary, and it is my risk to take if any of my product rots in the field because I cannot get it harvested. That is another example of supply and demand. The need of the farmer was higher at the end of the day than his desire to keep the money in his possession. When we understand the basic ideas behind supply and demand, we can maybe understand some of the people, like that farmer who was being criticized for destroying half of his crop, or the fella in the aftermath of Ike who had extra generators to sell. God bless the whole world, no exceptions. Angel Eliza.